Commander Lee Jun stood in the Great Hall of Nexus Prime, watching hundreds of alien beings file into their seats. The crystal walls stretched up so high he could barely see the top. Light came from everywhere and nowhere, making the whole place glow like the inside of a diamond. He had never seen anything so beautiful or so cold. This was his first time off Earth, his first time seeing aliens, his first time representing all of humanity. The weight of it pressed down on his shoulders. Like a heavy coat, Dr. Park Hana stood beside him, her hands shaking slightly as she looked at the creatures around them. She had studied alien signals for 20 years, but seeing them in person was different. The tall blue Zephyrians moved like dancers, their 6 arms flowing as they walked. The crystal beings called lumens clicked and chimed as they settled into special seats that let their light shine through. Hundreds of other species filled the massive hall, and Lee Jun realized that humans looked very small and very alone here. "How many are there?" he whispered to Park Hana. 847 species in the Galactic Council, she whispered back. "We're number 848. A sound like thunder filled the hall. The aliens were not clapping. They were making their own sounds of approval as a massive creature floated to the center of the room. It looked like a jellyfish made of stars, its body shifting between colors that had no names. "We gather today to decide the fate of the newest species found in our galaxy." The creature spoke without moving its mouth. The words appeared directly in Lee Jun's mind, and he tried not to flinch. The species that calls itself human. Lee Jun felt every eye, sensor, and alien organ turn toward him and Park Hana. They were the only humans in a room full of beings who could destroy Earth with a thought. "Before we vote," the floating being continued, "let us hear the evidence." A Zephyrian warrior stepped forward, his blue skin gleaming under the strange light. "I am war leader Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. We have studied these humans for many cycles. They are dangerous beyond measure." Images appeared in the air above the hall. Lee Jun watched in horror as Earth's history played out for all to see. Wars, bombs, cities burning. The images showed the worst of humanity, the Holocaust, the atomic bombs, endless conflicts throughout history. In just 10,000 years, they have killed billions of their own kind, Veltar continued. They fight over everything: land, resources, ideas, even the color of their skin. They are a plague that will spread across the galaxy if left free. Crystal being chimed in agreement. "I am Bright Singer Lumara of the Lumen Collective. These humans learn too fast. In 100 of their years, they went from primitive flying machines to walking on their moon. In another 100, they will have ships that can travel between stars. They cannot be allowed to reach that level of technology while free." More aliens spoke, each adding their voice to the growing list of humanity's crimes. They talked about Earth's pollution, about extinct animals, about human greed and violence. Lee Jun listened to them describe his species as if they were talking about dangerous animals that needed to be caged. Dr. Park Hana leaned close to him. "They're not wrong about our history," she whispered, "but they're not seeing the whole picture. The question before us is simple," the floating moderator announced. "Do we allow this species to develop freely, knowing they will likely become a threat to galactic peace? Or do we act now, while they are still weak, and place them under the guidance of more mature civilizations?" Lee Jun felt his heart sink. They weren't talking about destroying humanity. They were talking about enslaving it, making Earth a pet planet, with humans as workers and servants for the rest of the galaxy. "I call for the vote," Veltar declared. "All in favor of placing humanity under galactic supervision?" The voting began. One by one, lights appeared above. Each alien delegation. Blue for yes, red for no. Lee Jun watched as blue light after blue light filled the hall. The Zephyrians voted yes immediately. The lumens followed. species after species agreed that humanity should be enslaved. The collective. "Votes yes," came a voice that sounded like 1,000 people speaking at once. "The Verdani vote yes," whispered a creature that looked like a walking tree. Even the peaceful plant people wanted humanity chained. The Aquatic Union votes yes. The Silicon Hierarchs vote yes. The Energy Dancers vote yes. Blue lights filled the hall like stars in the night sky. Li Jun counted them, watching humanity's freedom disappear one vote at a time. 800 species. 810. 830. Only one delegation remained silent. Near the back of the hall, strange beings in dark robes watched without moving. They looked almost human, but something about them seemed very old and very sad. "The observers?" the moderator asked. "We abstain," came a voice that sounded familiar, though Li Jun could not place why. The final count appeared in burning letters in the air. 847 votes for enslavement, 0 votes for freedom, 1 abstention. The hall erupted in alien sounds of celebration. The Zephyrians made sharp whistling sounds. The lumens chimed like bells. Other species added their own voices to the chaos. They were celebrating the end of human freedom before it had even begun. Li Jun stepped forward. The noise died as every alien eye turned to him. He was just one small human in a room full of beings who could crush him without effort. But he was also Earth's voice, and he would not let his people go quietly into slavery. "You have made your choice," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the crystal hall. "You looked at humanity and saw only our failures. You saw our wars, but not our art. You saw our violence, but not our love. You saw our competition, but not our cooperation." He paused, meeting the eyes of as many aliens as he could. "You judged us by our worst moments and ignored our best ones. You decided to enslave us because you fear what we might become, not what we are." Veltar laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Fear? We do not fear primitive apes." Li Jun smiled, and something in that smile made several aliens step backward. "No, you should fear us, because you've just made 8 billion humans very, very angry. And you know what angry humans are capable of." He turned to Park Hana. "Signal Captain Kim Woo. Tell him it's time." The floating moderator pulsed with annoyed colors. "Time for what?" "Time for you to learn that enslaving humanity was the worst mistake your civilizations ever made," Li Jun replied calmly. "You have 1 solar cycle to reach Earth and claim your prize. I suggest you bring everything you have." "Are you threatening us?" Veltar demanded. "No," Li Jun said as he and Park Hana walked toward the exit. "I'm warning you, there's a difference. You'll learn what it is soon enough." As they left the hall, Li Jun heard the aliens behind them making sounds of confusion and anger. They didn't understand humans yet, but they would. Very soon, they would understand exactly what kind of species they had just voted to enslave. Captain Kim Woo's voice crackled through Li Jun's hidden communicator as they reached their ship. "Orders received, Commander. Operation Ghost Protocol is now active. Let's show these aliens what happens when you corner a predator." Li Jun looked back at Nexus Prime one last time. In a few months, every alien species in that hall would know his name. More importantly, they would fear it. The vote was finished. Now the real game could begin. Admiral Chobin floated in the command center of the hidden station called Haven 1, watching the alien fleets approach Earth on his screens. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species moved through space like a slow metal storm. They thought they were coming to claim an easy prize. They had no idea what was waiting for them. "How many ships?" he asked Engineer Yang Mi, who stood at the massive control board beside him. 2,416 alien vessels, Yang Mi replied, her fingers dancing over controls that looked nothing like human technology. Mostly Zephyrian warships, but I see Lumen crystal carriers and collective hive ships too. Admiral Cho Bin nodded. It was exactly what they had expected. After 50 years of watching and preparing, humans knew how aliens thought. They always brought overwhelming force to crush weak enemies quickly. Agent Nam Su, report. Cho Bin spoke into his communicator. Agent Nam Su's voice came back from somewhere deep in alien space. All targets confirmed, Admiral. I have assets in position throughout their territories. The moment you give the word, their homeworlds will learn what real fear looks like. Cho Bin smiled. Nam Su had spent 30 years building spy networks throughout the galaxy. Aliens trusted him because he looked like their idea of a harmless human trader. They never suspected that every human merchant, every human tourist, every human worker was actually a trained agent. "Sir," called Captain Kim Woo from his position near the main screen, "the evacuation is complete. All humans are safely off Earth and hidden in the sanctuary worlds." This had been the hardest part. Moving 8 billion people without the aliens noticing. But humans had been preparing for this day since they first detected alien signals 50 years ago. Secret ships built in hidden asteroid bases. Colonies established on worlds so far from alien space that they would never be found. Earth looked like a normal planet from the outside, but every human had been gone for 6 months. The aliens thought they were conquering a world full of people. Instead, they were walking into the biggest trap in galactic history. "Show me Earth," Cho Bin ordered. The screen changed to show the blue and green planet that had been humanity's home for millions of years. It looked peaceful and beautiful, just like the aliens expected. But appearances could lie. Dr. Moon Ji stepped up beside the Admiral. She had spent 20 years studying alien biology, learning how different species worked, what they needed to survive, what could hurt them. "The biological samples are ready, sir. Each one designed for specific alien physiology. The moment they land on Earth, they'll wish they hadn't." "And if they don't land?" Yang Mi asked. "Then we show them the other surprises we've prepared," Cho Bin replied. On the screen, the alien fleet reached Earth's solar system. They spread out in a formation that would surround the planet completely. No escape routes. No chance for the primitive humans to run away. War Leader. Veltar's voice came through space on all frequencies, just as they had expected. "Humans of Earth, this is the Galactic Council fleet. You have been judged unfit for freedom. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated well as servants of the greater galaxy. Resist, and you will be destroyed." The aliens waited for an answer. None came. "Typical human cowardice," Veltar announced to his fleet. "They hide like frightened animals. Begin the landing. Take the major cities first." Cho Bin watched as thousands of alien landing craft launched from the big ships. They flew down toward Earth like angry metal insects, heading for New York, London, Tokyo, and other major cities. "Now they find out what we left for them," Captain Kim Woo said quietly. The first landing craft touched down in what used to be Central Park. Alien soldiers poured out, ready to take control of the terrified humans they expected to find. Instead, they found empty cities and something else. "Sir!" came a panicked voice over the alien communications. "There's no one here! The entire city is empty!" More reports flooded in from around the planet. Every major city was abandoned. No humans anywhere. But that wasn't the strangest part. "War Leader," another voice called. "We're reading some kind of energy signatures throughout the city. It's like the buildings themselves are alive." Yang Mi laughed. "They're finally noticing the modifications we made." For 30 years, humans had been quietly changing Earth. Every major building now contained hidden technology. Power systems that could overload on command. Transport networks that could trap anyone inside them. Communication arrays that could broadcast signals designed to disrupt alien nervous systems. Earth wasn't just empty, it was a weapon. "Execute Phase 2, Admiral Cho Bin ordered. Throughout the empty cities, the traps activated. Buildings that looked normal suddenly became prisons, their doors sealing shut, their ventilation systems filling with gases designed to make different alien species very sick. Transport tunnels became mazes with no exit. Communication towers began broadcasting sounds and lights that caused pain to alien senses. The screams started almost immediately. "War leader!" came desperate voices from the surface. "We're trapped! The buildings won't let us out! Something is attacking our minds!" Veltar's response was exactly what humans had expected from a Zephyrian warrior. "Destroy the buildings! Burn the cities! Show these primitive apes the price of defying us!" The aliens began firing their weapons at Earth's cities. Massive explosions lit up the planet's surface as humanity's greatest monuments turned to dust and fire. The aliens thought they were solving the problem. They were actually making it worse. Phase 3, Chobin said calmly. Hidden deep under every major city, fusion reactors that had been sleeping for decades suddenly woke up. But these weren't normal power plants. Yang Mi had designed them with a special feature. When damaged by alien weapons, they released clouds of invisible particles into the atmosphere. These particles were harmless to Earth's environment, but they were very harmful to alien biology. Dr. Moon Ji had spent years developing them. Particles that made Zephyrian warriors feel weak and sick, others that disrupted lumen crystal formations, still others that caused collective hive minds to lose their connection to each other. Within hours, the mighty alien invasion force was stumbling around Earth's surface like drunk children. Their weapons still worked, but they could barely think straight enough to use them. "Sir," Captain Kim Woo reported, "we're getting communications from the alien fleet in orbit. They want to know what's happening to their ground forces." "Let them wonder," Chobin replied. "Agent Nam Su, are you ready?" "Always, sir," came Nam Su's voice. "Sleeper cells in 47 alien home systems are waiting for orders." "Then let's give them something to think about besides conquering Earth. Begin the galaxy-wide operations." Throughout alien space, humans who had been hiding as merchants and workers for decades suddenly revealed their true nature. Ships that seemed to be carrying trade goods actually carried weapons designed specifically to hurt alien infrastructure. Space stations that trusted their human maintenance crews discovered that those crews knew exactly how to shut down life support systems. But humans didn't target civilians. They had learned from history's mistakes. Instead, they targeted the things aliens valued most, their symbols of power, their ancient monuments, their centers of government. On the Zephyrian homeworld, the great crystal spire that had stood for 1,000,000 years suddenly cracked down the middle. On Lumen Prime, the singing crystals that provided light to the entire planet went dark. On Collective Central, the hive mind communication arrays began broadcasting human music instead of alien thoughts. The message was clear in every language. You thought you could enslave us. Instead, we're in your homes, in your systems, in your most sacred places. We've been watching you for 50 years, learning your weaknesses, preparing for this moment. Within 24 hours, the galaxy was in chaos. Alien governments that had ruled for millions of years suddenly realized that humans had been among them all along, hidden and waiting. War leader Veltar's voice came over the communications again, but this time he sounded different. Afraid. "Humans! What have you done? Our home worlds are under attack!" Admiral Chobin finally responded, his voice broadcast to every alien ship in Earth's system. "You voted to enslave us. Did you really think we would just accept it? Did you think we were as primitive as we seemed?" "This is impossible," Veltar sputtered. "You're a new species. You just discovered space travel." "No," Chobin replied calmly. "We discovered you 50 years ago. We've been preparing for this conversation ever since. The question now is, do you want to keep fighting, or do you want to learn what mercy looks like?" The alien fleet hung in space around Earth, their ground forces trapped on a planet that had become their prison, their home worlds under attack by an enemy they never saw coming. For the first time in galactic history, the mighty alien civilizations were discovering what it felt like to be afraid. General Song Yu sat in her command room deep inside an asteroid that didn't exist on any star map. Around her, screens showed the chaos spreading across the galaxy. 3 months had passed since the failed invasion of Earth, and the aliens were learning what it meant to fight an enemy they couldn't see. "Report from the Zephyrian systems," called Colonel Bei Jun from his station. "Their trade routes are completely shut down. No ship dares to travel between their worlds." "Good," Song Yu replied. "What about their military response?" "They're sending war fleets to patrol every system, but they're chasing ghosts. Captain O'Dowd's teams hit 3 supply bases yesterday and vanished before the Zephyrians even knew they were there." Song Yu smiled. This was exactly what she wanted. For thousands of years, alien species had ruled the galaxy through fear and overwhelming force. Now they were discovering what real fear felt like. Captain O'Dowd's voice came through the communication system from somewhere in deep space. "Ghost Squadron reporting, General. We just finished visiting the Lumen Crystal Farms in the Bright sector. They won't be growing new ships for a while." "Any casualties on our side?" Song Yu asked. "None. We were gone before they even knew we were there. But we left them a message they won't forget." Dr. Moon Ji looked up from her workstation, where she was preparing the next wave of biological weapons. "What kind of message?" "We carved 'Remember Earth' into their biggest crystal formation, in letters big enough to see from orbit. It should make them think." This was Song Yu's strategy. Don't just defeat the aliens. Make them afraid to sleep at night. Make them jump at shadows. Make them understand that voting to enslave humanity had consequences that would follow them forever. "Status. Report on the home-world operations," she ordered. Agent Nam Su's image appeared on the main screen. He was standing in what looked like a market on some alien world, but Song Yu knew he was actually in the heart of collective space, surrounded by enemies who trusted him completely. "The psychological warfare is working perfectly, General," Nam Su reported. "The collective hive mind is breaking down. When they can't trust their own communication networks, they can't function as a collective. Individual collective drones are starting to think for themselves for the first time in millions of years." "What about the other species?" "The Verdani are the most interesting case. They voted to enslave us because they thought it would bring peace to the galaxy. Now they're discovering that true peace sometimes requires fighting for what's right." "Several Verdani colonies have actually started helping us," Song Yu nodded. The plant-like Verdani had been the biggest disappointment. Humans had expected better from a species known for wisdom and peace, but their vote had taught humanity an important lesson. Sometimes the greatest evil comes from those who do nothing to stop it. "Sir," called Lieutenant Park Min from the communication station, "we're getting reports from all sectors. The alien economies are collapsing. Trade has stopped. Manufacturing is down. Some species are running out of basic supplies." This was the beauty of Song Yu's plan. Humans didn't need to destroy alien civilizations. They just needed to make them too afraid to function normally. When cargo ships disappeared, trade stopped. When communication networks were compromised, governments couldn't coordinate. When military bases were hit by invisible enemies, resources had to be wasted on defense instead of production. "General," Dr. Moon Ji said quietly, "I'm getting some reports that concern me. Civilian populations on several worlds are starting to suffer. Food shortages, medical supply problems." Song Yu paused. This was the line she had sworn never to cross. Humans had learned from their own dark history. They would not become the monsters that alien propaganda claimed they were. "Adjust the targeting parameters," she ordered. "Make sure our agents avoid anything that affects civilian populations directly. We're fighting governments and military forces, not innocent people." "Understood, sir." Captain O'Dowd's voice came through again. "General, I have a new report from the Nexus Prime system. The Galactic Council is trying to meet again, but they're having problems." "What kind of problems?" "The kind where they're too scared to leave their home systems. Half the species won't send representatives because they think we'll attack the ships. The other half won't meet on Nexus Prime because they think we've infiltrated it. Song Yu laughed. Have we infiltrated it? Of course we have. We've had people there since the first vote, but they don't need to know that yet. The communication screen changed to show intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, which had controlled 300 systems for 10,000 years, was now locked down to just 50 systems around their home world. The crystal ships of the Lumen Collective, once the fastest vessels in the galaxy, sat motionless in their harbors because the Lumens were afraid to venture into open space. Most satisfying of all, the ancient monuments and symbols of alien power continued to disappear. The Zephyrians had built victory statues on 1,000 conquered worlds. Now those statues were crumbling, replaced by simple human messages. Freedom is not negotiable. Sir, Lieutenant Park Min called, we're receiving a transmission. It's from War Leader Veltar himself. Put him through. The screen showed the blue-skinned Zephyrian commander who had led the vote against humanity. He looked older. Now, tired, and for the first time since humans had met him, he looked afraid. General Song Yu, Veltar began, and Song Yu noted that he now knew her name. I am calling to request a meeting. A meeting? Song Yu replied calmly. How interesting. What would we have to discuss? You must understand, the vote was not personal. We were following galactic law. We were protecting the peace. Whose peace? Song Yu asked. Not ours. Veltar was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was smaller. What do you want? What will it take to stop this? Song Yu stood up, and every human in the command center stopped what they were doing to listen. This was the moment they had been working toward for months. What do we want? She repeated. We want you to understand something, War Leader. You looked at humanity and decided we were too dangerous to be free. You were right about one thing. We are dangerous, but you were wrong about what makes us dangerous. I don't understand. You thought we were dangerous because we fight, because we compete, because we sometimes hurt each other. But that's not what makes us dangerous to you. What makes us dangerous is that we don't give up. We don't surrender. We don't accept that anyone has the right to chain us. The screen showed Veltar processing this information. Around him, other Zephyrians were listening, their 6 arms moving in patterns that Song Yu had learned meant confusion and fear. Every species in the galaxy voted to enslave us, Song Yu continued. 847 civilizations decided that humanity should serve them. Do you know what that taught us? What? That we were alone. That when the moment came, no one would stand with us. No one would defend our right to be free. So we decided to defend ourselves. But the destruction, the chaos, is what happens when you try to enslave a species that values freedom more than life itself. You wanted to see what humans do when cornered. Now you know. Veltar was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. What happens now? Now you learn. All of you. You learn that there are consequences for trying to take away freedom. You learn that some species cannot be conquered, only destroyed. And you decide if you want to keep learning the hard way. Song Yu cut the transmission and turned to her officers. Continue operations. I want every alien government to understand that this is just the beginning. We haven't even shown them our real capabilities yet. Captain O'Dowell's laughter came through the speakers. Should I tell them about the time manipulation experiments? Not yet, Song Yu replied. Let them think. What we've done so far is our best effort. The real surprises come later. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations that had ruled for millions of years sat in the dark, afraid to turn on their lights because they might attract the attention of the humans. The vote to enslave Earth had been unanimous. Now they were all paying the price, and humanity was just getting started. President Kang Hai stood on the observation deck of humanity's greatest secret, New Geneva Station, hidden in the space between galaxies where no alien had ever thought to look. Through the massive windows, she could see Earth in the distance, green and blue and beautiful again now that the alien invasion forces had finally retreated. 2 years had passed since the vote. 2 years of showing the galaxy what happened when you tried to enslave humanity. Now it was time for the final lesson. "Madam President," called Colonel Bei-jun from his command post, "all teams are in position around Nexus Prime. The aliens have no idea we're here. How many species have agreed to attend this emergency meeting?" President Kang Hai asked. "All of them, even the ones who lost entire fleets to our operations. They're desperate to find a way to stop us." President Kang Hai smiled. Desperation made people do stupid things. The alien species had spent 2 years learning to fear humanity, but they still didn't understand what they were really dealing with. Scientist Lee So looked up from her incredible machine that filled half of the B station's central bay. It looked like a sphere made of lightning and mirrors, humming with power that bent space around it. "The temporal displacement device is ready, Madam President. We can now prove that we've been ready for this war since before it started." "Show me," President Kang Hai ordered. The machine activated, and suddenly the observation deck showed not the present, but the past. 50 years ago, when humanity first detected alien signals, President Kang Hai watched her predecessors making the decision that had saved their species. They knew this day would come. Lee So explained. "The moment we learned that aliens existed, human leaders began preparing for the possibility that those aliens might be hostile. Every technology we've used against the Galactic Council was developed decades ago. The images changed, showing secret bases being built in hidden corners of the galaxy. Human agents learning alien languages and customs, scientists studying captured alien technology and improving upon it, weapons being designed specifically to counter each alien species. We didn't just prepare for war," President Kang Hai said, quietly. "We prepared to win." "Madam President," Colonel Bei-jun called, "the aliens are beginning their meeting. Should we proceed with the infiltration?" "Yes, but remember, no harm to civilians or non-military personnel. We're not monsters." On Nexus Prime, the crystal halls that had once rung with alien confidence now echoed with fear and anger. The species that had voted unanimously to enslave humanity were gathering to decide what to do about the nightmare they had created. War Leader Veltar stood before the assembly, his blue skin pale with exhaustion. "In 2 years, the humans have destroyed 40% of our military infrastructure. Our trade routes are gone. Our colonies live in fear. Some species are talking about surrendering completely." A lumen crystal being chimed in distress. "They appear from nowhere, strike our most defended positions, and vanish before we can respond. How do we fight an enemy we cannot find?" "Maybe we don't fight them," whispered a Verdani representative, her tree-like form swaying with worry. "Maybe we were wrong to vote for their enslavement?" The hall erupted in alien sounds of argument. Some species wanted to keep fighting, others wanted to negotiate. A few wanted to surrender completely and hope for mercy. They didn't notice the maintenance workers quietly moving through the building. Humans in disguise, preparing for the moment when their president would make her entrance. President Kang Hai watched from her hidden ship as Colonel Bei-jun's teams moved into position throughout Nexus Prime. They had been planning this moment for months, studying the building, learning its security systems, preparing to do something that would shatter alien confidence forever. "Teams in position," Bei-jun reported. "Ready for teleportation on your command." Scientist Lee So, "Is the time displacement field active?" "Yes, Madam President. The aliens will see not just what we're doing now, but what we were doing years ago. They'll understand that we've been ready for this moment since before they knew we existed. Then let's show them what real power looks like." On Nexus Prime, the alien debate continued. They were arguing about military strategies, about negotiations, about ways to stop the human threat. They thought they were safe in their crystal halls, protected by shields and guards and the greatest security systems in the galaxy. They were wrong. The air in the center of the hall began to shimmer. Aliens stopped arguing and stared as reality itself seemed to bend and twist. Then President Kang Hai stepped out of empty air, appearing in the middle of the Galactic Council as if she had always been there. Behind her came Colonel Bei Jun and a dozen human soldiers, their weapons drawn, but not aimed at anyone. The message was clear. They could have killed everyone in the hall before the aliens even knew they were there. The hall fell silent, except for the sound of alien breathing and the hum of crystal formations. 847 species stared at the small human woman who had just done something they thought was impossible. "Greetings," President Kang Hai said calmly. "I thought it was time we had a proper conversation." War Leader Veltar found his voice first. How did you get here? This building is impossible to infiltrate." "Is it?" President Kang Hai gestured, and the air around her shimmered again. The aliens found themselves looking at images from 50 years in the past. Human agents studying Nexus Prime's construction, learning its secrets, placing hidden devices in its very foundations. "We've been here since the beginning," she explained. "We've been watching, learning, preparing. The day you voted to enslave us, you activated plans that had been in place for decades." A collective drone spoke with the voice of its hive mind. "This is impossible. You are a primitive species. You should not have this technology." President Kang Hai laughed, and the sound sent chills through every alien in the hall. "Primitive? You keep using that word. Let me show you what primitive looks like." The temporal field expanded, showing the aliens images of human history they had never seen. Not just the wars and violence they had used to justify enslaving humanity, but the other side of the story. Humans helping each other during disasters. Scientists working together to cure diseases. Artists creating beauty in the darkest times. Ordinary people making extraordinary sacrifices to protect strangers. "You saw our capacity for violence and decided we were dangerous," President Kang Hai continued. "But you missed our capacity for growth, for adaptation, for turning our weaknesses into strengths. You thought our aggression made us unfit for freedom. We used that same aggression to defend our freedom." "What do you want?" Veltar asked, his voice small. "I want you to understand something," President Kang Hai replied. "You voted to enslave us because you thought we were too dangerous to be free. But the truly dangerous thing about humans isn't that we fight. It's that we learn. And we remember." She gestured again, and the hall filled with images of human agents throughout the galaxy. Not just the obvious ones, but the deep cover operatives who had been hiding among alien populations for decades. The trusted advisors, the skilled workers, the friendly neighbors who were actually human spies. For 50 years, we've been among you, learning your languages, your cultures, your weaknesses. Some of you have human friends you've known for decades, never guessing what they really were. We could have poisoned your water supplies, sabotaged your life support systems, assassinated your leaders. We didn't, because we're not the monsters you thought we were. The aliens stared in horror as they realized how thoroughly they had been infiltrated, how helpless they actually were. "Instead, we chose to teach you a lesson," President Kang Hai continued. "We showed you what happens when you try to enslave a species that values freedom above all else. We've spent 2 years demonstrating that your mighty civilizations are not as powerful as you thought." "Please," whispered a Verdani representative, "we understand now. We were wrong. Yes, you were wrong, but understanding isn't enough. You need to prove that you've learned." Veltar stepped forward, his 6 arms spread in a gesture of surrender. "What do you want us to do?" President Kang Hai smiled, and for the first time since the vote, it was not a frightening smile. "I want you to choose. You can keep fighting us and learn what our real weapons can do. Or you can accept that humanity deserves the same freedom you claim for yourselves. And if we choose freedom, then we stop being your nightmare and start being your neighbors. The choice is yours. The Great Hall of Nexus Prime fell silent as 847 alien species realized that the small human woman standing before them held their entire future in her hands. The vote that had started this war had been unanimous. Now they would discover what their second vote would bring. 1 year later, Ambassador Park Dong stood in the rebuilt halls of Nexus Prime, watching alien children play with human children in the central garden. The crystal walls still gleamed, but now they carried messages of peace in 1,000 languages, including the simple script of Earth. The war was over. The real work had begun. The Zephyrian delegation is here for their quarterly review, announced his aide, a young lumen crystal being who spoke perfect Korean. The sight would have been impossible 3 years ago when the galaxy voted to enslave humanity. Now it was normal. War leader Veltar entered the office, but he looked very different from the proud alien warrior who had once demanded human surrender. His blue skin had regained its healthy color, and his 6 arms moved with purpose rather than fear. Most importantly, he no longer wore the armor of conquest. Ambassador Park Dong, Veltar said, giving the slight bow that humans had taught him showed respect between equals. I have the Zephyrian Empire's monthly report on our peacekeeping activities. Park Dong accepted the datapad and reviewed it quickly. The Zephyrians, once the most aggressive species in the galaxy, were now humanity's partners in protecting smaller, weaker civilizations. Their warrior culture had not disappeared, but it had been redirected toward protecting others instead of conquering them. Excellent work in the Outer Rim, Park Dong said. The refugee colonies from the old hegemony wars are finally safe to rebuild. It is strange, Veltar admitted. For 10,000 years, we believed strength meant conquest. Humans have taught us that true strength means protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Through the office windows, Park Dong could see Admiral Yina's ships patrolling the space around Nexus Prime. The human fleet was smaller now, but still visible. A reminder that peace was possible, but not free. How are your people adjusting to the new way? Park Dong asked. Better than expected. Young Zephyrians especially seem to understand. They say fighting to protect others gives them more honor than fighting to conquer ever did. We have even had volunteers asking to serve on human ships. This was the miracle that President Kang Hai had envisioned. Not human domination over aliens, but cooperation between species that had learned to respect each other. Dr. Park Hana's voice came through the communication system from the research station orbiting nearby. Ambassador, the Lumen Collective is ready to present their new technology sharing proposal. Send them in. The Lumens entered in a formation of light and crystal that would have been beautiful before the war, but now carried deeper meaning. These beings, who had once voted to enslave humanity because they feared human chaos, now worked alongside human scientists to create wonders neither species could achieve alone. Ambassador, chimed the lead lumen, we have completed the joint project to create healing crystals that work with human biology. Our scientists and yours working together have achieved what neither could do separately. Park Dong smiled. This was how the galaxy was healing, not through force, but through cooperation that created something greater than the sum of its parts. A soft tone announced another visitor. The door opened to reveal one of the most mysterious figures in the new galactic order, Oracle Kim Tae of the Observer species. The Observers had been the only species to abstain from the vote to enslave humanity. For 3 years, no one had understood why. Now, looking at Oracle Kim Tae's face, Park Dong was beginning to suspect the truth. Oracle, he said respectfully, what brings you to Nexus Prime? Kim Tae's eyes held depths of knowledge that seemed impossibly old. When she spoke, her voice carried echoes of time itself. I come to witness the completion of the circle, Ambassador, and to share a truth that has been hidden for very long. She gestured, and the office filled with images that made Park Dong's breath catch. Views of Earth, but not the Earth he knew. An Earth millions of years in the future, where humanity had evolved into something beautiful and strange. An Earth where the descendants of humans watched over the galaxy with wisdom earned through ages of experience. The observers, Kim Tae said quietly, are what humanity becomes. We are your children's children's children, evolved beyond your current understanding, but still carrying the core of what makes humans special. Park Dong stared in amazement. You're from our future? From a future where humanity learned the lessons you are learning now. We have watched this moment approach for millions of years, knowing that our past selves needed to face this test alone. But why didn't you help us during the war? Kim Tae smiled. And in that smile, Park Dong saw the warmth of distant human love. Because the growth only comes through struggle. Because true strength must be earned, not given. Because the galaxy needed to see what humanity could become when pushed to its limits. The images shifted, showing scenes from the war that had changed everything. Humans choosing mercy over vengeance. Human soldiers refusing to harm alien civilians, even when it would have been easier. Human leaders seeking justice rather than conquest. Every species in the galaxy voted to enslave you because they saw your potential for violence, Kim Tae continued. What they missed was your potential for growth, for choosing to be better than your worst impulses. And now? Now they understand. The Zephyrians have learned that strength without compassion is meaningless. The Lumens have learned that order without freedom is death. The Verdani have learned that peace without justice is cowardice. All of them have learned what humans have always known deep in their hearts, that the best victory is the one where everyone can walk away with dignity. A communication signal interrupted the conversation. President Kang Hai's voice came through from New Geneva Station. Ambassador Park Dong, we're receiving surrender requests from the last 3 holdout systems. The war is officially over. Park Dong felt a weight lift from his shoulders. 3 years of conflict, of proving humanity's worth, of teaching the galaxy that freedom could not be voted away, it was finally finished. Madam President, he replied, should we accept their surrender? Accept their request to join the new galactic community? President Kang Hai corrected. No one surrenders to humanity. Everyone is invited to participate in something better. Oracle Kim Tae nodded approvingly. And this is why humanity will become the observers. Not because you conquer, but because you include. Not because you dominate, but because you elevate others. Later that day, Park Dong stood in the memorial garden that had been built where the original vote took place. 847 stone markers stood in a circle, each one representing a species that had voted to enslave humanity. But the markers were not monuments to victory over enemies. They were reminders of the day the galaxy learned to choose cooperation over domination. At the center of the circle stood a simple stone with words in every galactic language. Freedom is not something you can vote away from others. It is something you must choose to give to everyone. Captain Kim Woo, now an old man but still sharp, joined him in the garden. Do you think they'll remember the lesson? Park Dong watched alien children playing games they had learned from human children, while their parents worked together on projects that would benefit everyone. I think they'll remember, and if they forget, their children will remind them. And us? What happens to humanity now that the war is over? Park Dong thought about Oracle Kim Tae's revelation, about the long future stretching ahead where humans would grow into something wise and wonderful. We keep being human. We keep growing, keep learning, keep choosing to be better than our worst impulses. As the twin suns of Nexus Prime set behind the crystal spires, Park Dong reflected on the strange journey that had brought them here. The Galaxy had voted to enslave humanity because they feared what humans might become. Instead, they had helped humanity become exactly what the universe needed, not conquerors, but teachers, not masters, but partners, not overlords, but friends who would stand guard over freedom for as long as the stars shined. The vote had been 847 to 0, with one abstention. The final score was 848, species choosing to build a better galaxy together, and in the end, that was the most human victory of all.